Welcome back to the Adam Schefter Podcast. We are now 1 week away from the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Amazing how it flies, because I remember when they picked Green Bay as a site for the draft and you thought, oh, we're going to have to go to Green Bay in late April in 2025. And lo and behold, here it is upon us. And the NFL has sent out the invite list of players invited to attend this year's NFL Draft alphabetically. They are Tyler Booker, Jihad Campbell, Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, Matthew Golden, Mason Graham, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Will Johnson, Tet McMillan, Jalen Milroe, Josh Simmons, Malachi Starks, Shamar Stewart, Cameron Ward, and Mikael Williams. There is your list of invitees to the 2025 NFL Draft. Notice no Shedeur Sanders, who opted to watch the draft at home with his family in Dallas, Texas. That's where he'll be for the upcoming NFL Draft. But everybody is getting ready to descend upon Green Bay for the 2025 NFL Draft. And to help us get ready for that and for everything that's going on across the league, we turn to my friend, my colleague, the co-host of the Pat McAfee Show, Ty Schmit, to host this week's Six Pack.
Thank you very much, Shefty. Good to see you as always. Man, here we go. We're a week away. Finally, all the BS storylines and the smoke screens, those are kind of starting to dissipate. I can't wait for the draft. With that in mind, let's get right into it, Shefty. Let's go to topic number one of this week's Six Pack. What are the latest draft storylines right now? It seems like outside of Cam Ward going number one, everything is kind of still up in the air. Maybe we're getting a little bit of clarity, for some teams, but it seems like anyone could go anywhere at this point. In your opinion, what continues to be the biggest story of this draft?
Well, Ty, again, as we like to do throughout the offseason, because you never know when things are going to change, we are taping this Tuesday morning in the 8 o'clock hour. And as we sit here and tape today, 9 days out of the NFL Draft, I would tell you that the biggest storyline has been and continues to be the status of one Shedeur Sanders. Now, it came out Monday night. We reported that the New York Giants are sending a bevy of officials to Boulder, Colorado this Thursday for a private workout of Shedeur Sanders. Now, keep in mind, the Giants have spent an inordinate amount of time all year long going to Boulder, studying Shedeur Sanders, meeting with him, talking to him at the combine, bringing him to New York for a dinner, post-draft for a top 30 visit. And now, after all that, going to his pro day and everything, they're still scheduling a private workout this late in the game. So what that tells you is that at this point in time, they are still in search of some last-minute information, or there's some type of disagreement within the organization about who is in Shedeur Sanders' corner and who is not. And that would be my guess today as to what's going on, that there are people in the Giants organization who are in favor of taking Shedeur, and there are others in the organization who are not. And so they're trying to see if they could get on the same page with a private workout, a last week meeting with Shedeur Sanders. But it is incredible how one player figures to impact the draft, because we could do it this way. What if the Giants take Shedeur at number 3? Well, the New England Patriots are thrilled that all of a sudden one of the blue chip prospects gets to them at number 4. What if the Giants don't take Shedeur? Well, then the Patriots lose out on that prospect, and Shedeur is available potentially to go number 9 to New Orleans, perhaps. New Orleans has major quarterback questions about Derek Carr's future. We don't know how that's going to go. Or maybe Shedeur is there for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. And the Pittsburgh Steelers met with Shedeur last week. And I can tell you, they came away from that meeting impressed. They liked him more than they thought they would have. So now all of a sudden, Shedeur figures into the plans, maybe in New York, maybe in New Orleans, maybe in Pittsburgh. Where's he going in the draft? How is it impacting the teams behind them? One player seems to impact a whole bunch of teams and how the upcoming draft is going to unfold. It's wild to me that one guy could do that, but it feels like that's the power that Shedeur Sanders currently holds in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. He continues to be, has been, and will be the biggest storyline going into this draft.
And I think it kind of makes sense with how polarizing he's been really since he's been at Jackson State. There really is no middle ground with him. It seems like people either love him or they hate him. There's no kind of like, oh yeah, I don't mind him. There's none of that with him. Do you think when it comes to the Giants, can one more meeting really sway them to be like, hey, you know what? We are going to take him, because we don't know the full, breadth of the situation. But from what you just said, it kind of sounds like the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch situation a couple years ago when they drafted Trey Lance. The upper management was split on, hey, do we want Trey Lance? Do we want Mac Jones? And then we know what happened there. Do you think one more meeting could finally solidify, hey, nope, we're all on the same page, we're going to take Shedeur?
Well, yeah, I think my friend Mike Tannenbaum, the former GM of the Jets and executive of the Dolphins, pointed this out. Either this is a reaction, this meeting with Shedeur, this private workout, is the reaction to new information. And I don't think there's any new information on Shedeur, or there is a disagreement in the building. And I think when you have a potential disagreement in the building, you're trying to get the people that aren't necessarily in that corner more on your side, comfortable with the idea that if we take this player, everybody is going to be okay with that. And I think that if you're Shedeur Sanders, you're Deion Sanders, you want full support from that organization. I think going into the workout on Thursday, I don't know, maybe one workout's not going to change it. I don't think they have full support within the Giants building, but they might have enough support, and they might have the support of the right people to make him the third overall pick. And what's wild about it is that there are teams that really like Shedeur, and there are other teams that don't view him like that at all. So, the Giants could pick him at 3. He could turn out to be a great quarterback, or some of these other teams could be right where they don't have that high of a grade on him. It, again, becomes the most fascinating question, the most intriguing storyline in this upcoming. We've been saying it on this podcast for weeks and months now, right? And It's funny how it feels like we initially were talking about Shedeur or a quarterback at 2, but it turned out that the quarterback the Browns wanted was Cam Ward. Then we're talking about Shedeur at 3, and then some information came out, people talking that, no, Giants are not big Shedeur fans. And now all of a sudden it comes out that they're going to this private workout, and it feels like there are differing opinions on him within their own building. And it's such an important pick at such an important position that they have to do everything in their power to try to get everybody on the same page, whether that means they're going to take Shedeur next week or not take Shedeur next week.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, I'm sure we'll hear, what happens at that workout and those meetings. I don't know if we'll kind of get the full story, but, we'll find out next week how well it went, I suppose.
And that is the question, to Shedeur or not to Shedeur?
Well said. All right, Shefty, you mentioned it there. Let's move on to topic number 2. There's a chance the Steelers maybe take Shedeur at 21 if he slips down that far. I don't know if drafting him would be enough of a Band-Aid to kind of cover up everything that's gone on with them this offseason. So let's go there. What is going on with the Steelers? Yeah. That Willie, won't he, with Aaron Rodgers, and now we see TJ Watt chucking up the deuces on his Instagram. His contract negotiations aren't going the best. What is going on in Pittsburgh right now?
Well, here's what I would say. Again, as we tape this Tuesday morning, I think we are entering the critical stretch for Aaron Rodgers' final decision about whether or not to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I say that because of this tie. The Pittsburgh Steelers voluntary offseason workout program begins next week. And if Aaron Rodgers decides that he wants to play in Pittsburgh with new teammates, new receivers, new coaches, in a new offense in a new city, I would think that he would want to be there, boots on the ground, from day one of the offseason program so he could be on the field. Now, he could put this off more and wait longer, sure, he could do that. It's not like it's a hard deadline. But if you're going to be going into a new situation, don't you want to give yourself the best chance to get acclimated to everybody and everything within your power when the offseason workout program begins? And don't you want to be there for the entire offseason program unless you have some trip planned to Egypt or the Middle East or some other trip that we don't know about? So to me, we're entering a period here over the next week where I kind of think that we might hear something from Aaron Rodgers because this is the start of the Steelers' offseason workout program. And just like we're talking about Shedeur Sanders being one of the key figures in the upcoming draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers might be the single most intriguing team to watch. Here's a team that traded its second-round draft pick for Pro Bowl wide receiver DK Metcalf. The Steelers don't have a two. They have holes and needs to address, and they need to figure out who's going to be playing quarterback. So ideally, you'd like to get an answer from Aaron Rodgers before the draft begins at the start of your off-season program so you could begin to move forward. That doesn't mean we're assured of getting something from him, but I would think it would be kind of ideal. Can you imagine what it would be like right now to be a coach on the Pittsburgh Steelers staff when you're trying to basically get your offense ready for the start of your off-season program, and you don't know whether that offense is going to include Aaron Rodgers or not? You're going to have one offense that's dictated from Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, the two quarterbacks currently on your roster, plus whoever you might draft in the draft. And then you're going to have another offense in the event that Aaron Rodgers tells you, yes, I'm going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is tough on the coaches. This is tough on the front office. This is tough on all the Steelers fans who have been waiting for an answer. But we are entering a critical period for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their fans. And I would think that this would be a logical time to get some answers from Aaron Rodgers. And that doesn't even include the drama surrounding TJ Watt, who gives up, as you said, what was it, the deuces emoji or the deuces?
What is it? He just posted a picture of him coming off the field. Yeah.
And so something is going on with TJ Watt. Now, the issue is we've seen all these pass rushers get paid this offseason. We have not seen TJ Watt get paid. And TJ Watt has been as good as anybody in football, but he's also 32. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, how do you address that in the right way right now? You want to take care of the best players. You want to take care of the people you want on your team. But can you and will you do that at his age? And so is there a team out there, a veteran team? I could think of a couple of teams that might want to lob a call into Pittsburgh to see if there's any way that they would be willing to part with TJ Watt. Now, I would think they wouldn't. I would think TJ Watt is too ingrained in that city, too much a part of the fabric of that city to part ways with, but I don't know how they feel exactly. And that would not be a very Steelers-like move to move on from him. But to me, if I were another team, I'd be calling them to say, is there any way that you'd be willing to move on from TJ Watt? Probably would be a quick answer, but worth a call at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, that, you mentioned that, and immediately I think Packers because he went to Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin. They need.
There's one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like any of those teams who are kind of teetering right there on the edge because
Washington.
Yeah, exactly. Washington. Yeah, like you mentioned, I think there's at least 10 teams who would at least put that call in because you know what you're getting out of TJ Watt. If he stays healthy, he's going to be one of the best defensive players in football. I understand he's 32. Do you want to give him a new 5-year deal and make him the highest paid, defensive player or non-quarterback in the NFL? That's a little tricky. But I think what you mentioned about Rodgers and the coaches, I think that you hit the nail on the head here because when he was on our show, when he was on Pat's show a couple years ago and Matt LaFleur had just been hired, he talked about how they went through Matt LaFleur's entire playbook, combed through every single play, and he circled the ones he liked and the ones he didn't like, said, nope, get that out of there. And that's not a quick process. You're not doing that in a day. You're taking a little bit of time to do that. I would assume, I know when he went to Pittsburgh, he met with Artie Smith, and they kind of talked offensive philosophy and watched film and, did all that kind of stuff. At least that's what was reported. But you would imagine, because the players, he's going to be, he'll build rapport with them. He'll be able to get on the same page with those guys. But you would think he would want to be able to kind of get his hands on the playbook and put his thumbprint on it and say, hey, I want to run this kind of stuff. I don't want to run this stuff. So yeah, I mean, you would think that we would get an answer before the draft, but at this point, it's been radio silent for the last, really, since he went and had that visit in Pittsburgh. So I don't know if we're going to get that.
There's a lot going on there. We're waiting for answers. And now, as I've said before, the Pittsburgh Steelers know what it's like to be Aaron Rodgers and essentially be in the dark.
Yeah. So I didn't expect the Steelers to be one of the most intriguing teams to, look at going into the draft, but here we are. That's the way it goes. Let's move on to topic number 3 of this week's Six Pack. Shefty, sticking with the draft. What is the one position that really stands out to you in this draft?
Running back, Ty. When you look at this draft, what it lacks in certain spots is more than made up for at the running back position. It's a great running back draft. It's a deep running back draft. You can get help where you want it. You could find what you're looking for. I believe Scouts Inc. has, of the top 100 players in this draft, 11 of them, 11 are running backs. And it goes back to 2008. That's the highest number of highest grade running backs since the 2008 draft that produced back in the day Darren McFadden, Chris Johnson, Jonathan Stewart, Jamal Charles. There was something for everybody at the running back position in that draft. And I think the feeling across the league is that the same is true in this draft, that if you need a running back, you can find what you need in this particular draft. I had one general manager tell me that there were, in his mind, 6 quote unquote blue chip running backs in this draft. Now, we're not going to see 6 running backs go in the first round of the draft. That's not going to happen, but you are going to see a lot of them essentially moving forward here, and a lot of great running back talent. That is the one position in my mind that shines in this draft.
Makes sense. I mean, just watching college football last year, the amount of guys who you would watch and just immediately be like, oh, he looks like a Sunday guy. And like you said, a lot of very few teams are going to be able to pay, a Saquon or a Christian McCaffrey. So if you can get one of these guys who is potentially a blue chip prospect and get him on a rookie deal, and he's going to, have 250 to 300 carries for you, I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Especially if, like you said, you got 11 guys in the top 100. Have we ever seen something like that? I don't know. I mean, maybe back in like the 70s and the 60s when throwing the football wasn't, as in vogue as it is now. I mean, we may never see this again.
And we're coming off a season where we saw the importance of running back. What did Saquon Barkley's acquisition do for Philadelphia? What did Derrick Henry's acquisition do for Baltimore? What did Josh Jacobs' acquisition do for Green Bay? Running backs have made a huge difference, and they're going to make a huge difference in this draft as well.
I'm excited to see how many guys not only go in the first round, but how many guys go in the, first 2 rounds. Because I think there is a chance we get, 6, 7 running backs, which I can't remember the last time that happened. And again, who knows when the next time that will happen. Let's move on to topic number 4, Shefty. I don't know if this was a massive surprise, but I think everyone, when it happened, was kind of like, okay, yep, makes sense. The Browns brought back Joe Flacco. Why exactly do you think they did that?
Well, number one, here's the thing that I think a lot of people didn't realize. We heard Kirk Cousins continually connected to Cleveland. That's quite a tongue twister there. Cousins connected continually to Cleveland. But we've heard him continually connected to Cleveland. But what they didn't realize is that with all the guaranteed money that Kirk Cousins had in his contract, it would have been very difficult for Cleveland to trade for that deal when it's already paying Deshaun Watson some $46 or so million for this season, and have all that money with Watson and Cousins. Like, that didn't make sense. Joe Flacco, you signed to a 1-year deal for $4 million. That's a lot more palatable than taking on Kirk Cousins' $45 million in guaranteed money. Plus, we've got a guy who won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year in Cleveland He'll take the Browns to the playoffs. And let's be honest, they probably would have been better off just sticking with him and riding with him all along. He goes to Indy. He becomes a free agent. He goes back to Cleveland. By the way, you could play it back in this podcast. We said after the combine, watch Joe Flacco going to Cleveland. Now, it took us a little while to get to that spot, but coming out of the podcast, that was the way that I said Daniel Jones to Indy, Joe Flacco to Cleveland. It's exactly how it played out. Sometimes it works out the way you think, and here, sometimes it doesn't. Things change. Joe Flacco to Cleveland always made a ton of sense. Now, the Browns here, like the Steelers, like the Saints, like these intriguing storylines, are still going to be in the quarterback market here next week. They're going to take a quarterback high. I don't expect it to be at number 2, barring some sort of upset. I think Travis Hunter feels like the pick. We'll see if I change on Cleveland yet again. I understand that I've gone from the quarterback to Abdul Carter to Travis Hunter, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And it's a situation where they're going to take a quarterback, but I think they are more inclined to do it on the second day if they don't trade up back into the first round. The Browns, as it currently stands, are scheduled to make the opening pick on the second round. So that first pick Friday night, that chronicled, followed, tracked pick that everybody's calling about, that belongs to the Cleveland Browns. That's a valuable pick. And there's no way that we're going to see, in my mind, more than 3 quarterbacks picked in the first round. I think, frankly, we might get 2. Now, there might be a team that trades back up into round 1 for a third quarterback. That could happen. That definitely could happen. I guess maybe the Giants could go Shedeur at 3, and the Saints could go Jackson Dart at 9, and there's your 3 quarterbacks. There's that scenario. That's a possibility. So I think we're going to get 3. I don't think we get 4 in round 1. 4 would really surprise me. And so there's the real possibility that come Friday night, we're sitting there and the Cleveland Browns are on the clock, and all of a sudden, either Tyler Shuck or Jackson Dart is sitting there, Jalen Milroe is sitting there, and Cleveland gets to take a quarterback, the quarterback that it really likes, to kick off festivities on Friday night if they don't get another offer from another team about moving up to that top slot to begin with. So the Cleveland Browns become another team of interest, especially on the quarterback front, with them holding that opening pick on Friday night.
We know that they signed Kenny Pickett. It sounds like, I mean, they're going to draft a quarterback. Where at remains the question. They're paying Flacco like a backup, a veteran backup. Do you think this is going to be an open competition, or do you think we go into the season with Flacco being the starting quarterback?
Well, let's say that they get a quarterback day 2, right? Opening pick of round 2, which I think is feasible. I think that they open it up to Flacco and Pickett, and they also give that rookie a chance to shine. Like, if the rookie shines, I go back to what Seattle did during one of John Schneider, the general manager's first years there. They traded for Charlie Whitehurst. They signed Matt Flynn, the free agent quarterback from Green Bay, and they drafted Russell Wilson in round 3 at pick number 75, if my memory serves me correct. And they went to camp, and I don't think that they thought that Russell Wilson was going to win the job, but he played so well that he did win the job clearly, and that turned out to be the right decision. I think with Cleveland, you're going to camp, you're saying, okay, we're going to let Flacco and Pickett square off. We've got this rookie, whoever it's going to be, and it's up to the rookie to change the minds of the people in that organization in camp. And maybe he could do it, and maybe he can't, but you're not counting on that early on. But at some point in time, they're going to turn to that rookie. They're going to be drafting that rookie with a high pick, and we know what's going to happen. If they start losing games and they're not playing well, people are going to be calling for that rookie quarterback. They're just going to be doing that. But they have to make sure that they are working that quarterback for the long term, training him the right way, and making sure that they don't put him out there before he's ready to be put out there.
Without a doubt. So, yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on, because who knows? I mean, we could be talking about all this, and they could end up taking Shedeur Sanders at number 2. We
blow it up.
Yeah, exactly. Not that, like you've mentioned, that it doesn't sound
I'm not expecting that. But again,
Right.
That's the great part about the draft. Like, again, we could go through any draft and come up with surprises at any and all drafts at any time.
Exactly. So that'll be something to pay attention to on draft night and the days that follow. Let's move on to topic number 5 of this week's Six Pack Shefty. What do you make of Maxx Crosby being announced as the Eastern Michigan assistant GM? What kind of responsibilities do you think he's going to have? What kind of time commitment is that? What do you think of the whole situation?
It's interesting you say that because I happened to tape a podcast with Maxx Crosby last night. He has a podcast with 2 of his Eastern Michigan friends, Damian and Brogan. And I was on with those guys Monday night, and we were on for a long period of time. And first of all, they do a great job, so love being on with them. But Max is an engaging, charismatic personality. And when Eastern Michigan hires him in a role like that, I mean, he's going to be able to help raise money for the school. He's going to be able to help recruit for the school. He's going to be able to help use his influence and impact on the school. And here's what's going to happen, Ty. We're going to see more and more of this going forward. Because in basketball, we saw Steph Curry get named the assistant GM at Davidson College, his college. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden, Trae Young becomes the assistant GM at Oklahoma, and Terrence Mann, who's on the Atlanta Hawks as well, becomes the assistant GM for Florida State. And so now that it's happened in the NFL and Maxx Crosby has become the first active NFL player to become an assistant GM, why would that not happen elsewhere, right? Why would Wisconsin not make TJ Watt the assistant GM? Why would LSU not make Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase assistant GMs together and use their power? And like, you could do whatever you want with any of these star players. And so Max is a star. He becomes the assistant GM for Ypsilanti. You know, somebody said to me, hey, maybe you could become the assistant GM of Michigan. And I want it known for the record right now that if my dear friend and former colleague Adrian Wojnarowski is leaving ESPN, he went for a general manager job. Okay, I'm not going for some assistant GM job. Okay, I want the whole enchilada if I'm leaving. I want to be a GM. Okay, I'm not doing this assistant GM thing. If you're leaving, you're leaving, right? Woj had the right idea. I want to be a GM, not an assistant GM. But for now, for the active NFL players, yes, assistant GM is a trend that I think we're going to see take hold in the NFL. I think that's going to be the start. I think there'll be more and more players who take on assistant GM roles, and Maxx Crosby is going to be a great selection for Eastern Michigan.
Like you said, I mean, I'm not saying it's just a figurehead position because obviously he's an alum. He cares about the school. He wants to see them do well. But the day-to-day stuff isn't as important. Just knowing that he's connected to the program matters. You know, a lot of these guys, like you said, for recruiting, if you can, you know, have Maxx Crosby call a guy or have him be, you know, in the periphery of the recruiting process, like that makes a big deal. And also, like you said, raising money from boosters and everything. If you got a guy who's a you know, potential future Hall of Famer and the best football player in your school's history associated with the program and, you know, kind of making decisions, like that's going to get people talking, that's going to get people excited, and that's going to get people to want to get out their wallets if they're inclined to do so.
Yeah, and so that Max will be great. But check out his podcast too. Great guy.
Without a doubt. All right, Shefty, let's move on to the 6th and final topic of this week's Six Pack. Let's get away from the NFL. Let's get away from the draft. You were in Augusta on Thursday and Friday, or just Thursday?
Thursday. I flew down Wednesday night.
Okay, so you were there on Thursday, and you got to kind of take in everything at the Masters. What a weekend. What an incredible weekend. What'd you think of Rory's Masters win and ultimately completing the career Grand Slam?
Well, first of all, we talked about becoming a GM. I'll tell you what I would absolutely consider doing one day, honestly, becoming a golf insider. Like, that is something that interests me. I'm just telling you right now, like, I love being around all that, and I think that that's a fertile ground, and one day in my future, that's something that does interest me, and we'll see how that goes. But I went down to Augusta on Wednesday night, and I spent Thursday and Friday before flying back Friday night to New York. And it is just, to be there, it's majestic. It's magical. It's mythical. Like, you walk around and you feel it, and truly love being there. One of my cousins, he just turned 65 last week. He practiced medicine for 40 years. His lifelong goal had been to go to the Masters, and he retired. So in the same week that he turned 65 and retired from being a doctor, I decided to take him as a gift to the Masters. So he came down. We met up on Friday morning, and I spent the entire day with him on the course. He had never been. It was incredible. Sunday, when Rory won, that was, I'm going to tell you right now, when he sank that putt in the playoff and walked off, and I've seen replays of it. I've watched it a few times. I watched it live. I watched it replayed. That was some of the best sports television that you will ever see. Jim Nantz, Trevor Immelman, they didn't say barely a word in 7 minutes. And all you got to watch was Rory hug his family, his wife, his daughter, his agents, his friends, all the people that meant something to him, walk off. You could see what it meant to him. You could hear what it meant to the crowd. It was 7 minutes. I challenge anybody who is not even a golf fan to watch that and not get emotional. I got teary-eyed watching it on Sunday Night Live. I watched the replays of it on Monday and became emotional again. It was incredible to watch. Very powerful. You couldn't help but feel great for somebody who had worked so hard for so long and overcome so much. There were so many times where it didn't happen. And CBS did a tremendous job. They're going to win, I think, Emmys for that. Like, it was awesome to see the way that they handled it. Jim Nantz is so good, such a pro. And it was some of the greatest sports television that I could remember watching. Now, on a personal note, being at the Masters, Ty, the one thing that's amazing about it is you're not allowed to have your phone at all. You have to check your phone. And so I go into Thursday and Friday petrified of what's going to happen. Is Aaron Rodgers going to come back today while I'm on the golf course? Is something like that? Are the Tennessee Titans going to trade the number 1 overall pick? Is Deion Sanders going to say that Shedeur's playing in this city or nowhere else? Like, what's going to happen while you're on the course? And you come back from the day. On Thursday, I had 29 text messages that I missed, and I'm just waiting. And like, you pick up your phone, and you're like, what do we got here? Right? Like, it's a terrible thing, but it's a sacrifice that you make. I only had one real glitch on the course on Friday, right? Like, a bunch of people, really nice. Hey, I was wearing a Michigan fleece, which that was that was interesting. And so, a lot of people, Schefter, who the Steelers going to take? Schefter, who the Giants going to take? I had this one, I'd say 20-year-old kid come running up to me, and he goes, "Did you hear about the humongous NFL trade?" And my heart dropped. This is on the 6th hole. So if someone's listening and they were on the 6th hole, the par 3, 6, this guy came running over to me after. I was with my cousin. He goes, "Did you hear about the humongous NFL trade?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "I'm only kidding." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Okay." Like, that wasn't that funny. I got to be honest with you. It was, and even my cousin, who's not a football fan, like, he looks at me, he goes, that kid was obnoxious, and he scared the crap out of me, to be honest. Like, my heart dropped into my stomach when he said that. But it was an unbelievable experience to be there, other than that one little moment on the course on Friday. And you couldn't help but feel incredibly happy for Rory McIlroy. And that was some of the best television that I had seen from CBS, who did a remarkable job broadcasting an event that was as memorable as any sports event you could watch in a long time.
Yeah, and got the biggest ratings it's had in who knows how long, a really long time. And I understand, like, the phone aspect of it for a guy like you or people who are in this business where you're not used to that at all. You have to be on your phone. You're always constantly checking your phone. That is one of the cool things about Augusta, though, when you look back on Sunday and you see everyone out there, and you just don't see that anywhere anymore. Like, no one has phones. Everyone's just present in the moment, kind of appreciating it together and, living it together. And that is, that's the only place in the world, I think, where you get that. Everywhere else, everyone's got their phone up, they're recording it, and they want it for later. And everyone, you just have to sit there and kind of take it in. Like, that part of it is really cool still.
I think I saw a picture on social media of, like, when LeBron set the NBA points record, everybody in the stands has their phone up, as opposed to Rory, everybody's got their hands up and is cheering when he sinks the putt that clinches the Masters and the Grand Slam and makes him the 6th golfer all time to get into that golf grouping.
Yeah, the way, like, no one's got photos of it. You just got the memories of it, which is really, really cool. You don't have the Instagram posts or any of that kind of stuff. It's just the memories that you share with the people around you. And I agree. I mean, I got super emotional watching it. I'm a Rory fan, but it got to the point where he's almost won at the Masters and at Augusta so many times that it was inevitable down the stretch there, especially when he misses that par putt on 18 to kind of seal it. I was like, boy, here we go. He's gonna, and if he would have lost that one, I don't know if he ever wins a tournament again, let alone the Masters. Just seeing what pressure does to someone, even if they're one of the greatest of all time. It's crazy, but then, to kind of harness that pressure and hit that approach shot with that wedge he did on the first playoff hole and stick it within 3 feet. I mean, it just drama, cinema, everything you can, every superlative you can use to describe it. We got it on Sunday and all throughout the weekend. It was incredible. I'll remember that for a long time.
And you know what? We're going to Green Bay next week, and there's no way, there's a lot of emotion because this is a lifelong dream. A lot of these players who have worked for this moment. But I can't imagine that we're going to get any moment, maybe, but I can't imagine we're going to get any moment that's going to be as powerful and as memorable and as impactful as Rory sinking that putt and walking off the green at the Met. We're going to try. We're going to see what we come up with, right? And a lot of it's riding on Shedeur. The pressure's on to see if he can come up with a moment that's going to rival Rory McIlroy in the Masters. We'll see if it can get done. But that's the great part of the draft. Let's see the moments that are going to be coming our way here, Ty. All right. Want to thank Dan Stanzik for putting together another podcast. Ben Smith for the video. Ty, you did a great job again. I appreciate it. And thank you to all the listeners out there for tuning in to another Adam Schefter podcast. We're going to be back in this spot next week. The week will be here. The draft will be on us. We are going to Green Bay on Tuesday for the 2025 NFL draft. And we'll be back in this spot next week for the latest updates, the latest insights, and all your up-to-minute news on who's going where in the 2025 NFL Draft. Until then, everybody, have a great week, be well, and stay safe.